So this first video we want to do a lot of things that are different from probably your ordinary juggalo YouTube content. Some of it will be probably just straight juggalo stuff, but some of it will be different. And we want to open up with a topic that we've been talking about ourselves lately, and that is kind of a question. And you can tell us if you agree, disagree, or otherwise, whatever.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, in the comments, whatever, you know. But what we were thinking today is, and over the past week, kind of thinking about this, is do politics belong in hip-hop or in music in general? And if they do, when is it well executed, and when is it not well executed? And we have examples of both, in our opinion.
Yep.
We think anything can belong in music if done correctly. And when we say correctly, we don't mean it's got to be something we agree with. It's got to be about, you know, abortion or about guns, or
right.
We have to agree with it. Is it well executed? And, you know, honestly, I think some of the best political music, in my opinion, or not political music, but things that mention politics, is something that gets me to think differently than maybe I ordinarily would have.
Right.
Or something I maybe didn't think of before about the topic.
Right. And something that's said very well and said, you know, as we like to say it with your chest. Something with some extreme bass with it, some confidence in what's being said.
Right. And some substance. You know, some confidence in whatever it is and some substance. So, Off top, one of the things I thought of right away, this isn't a political album per se. It's just, it has an interesting feature though. This is Sacrificial Lambz by Esham.
Yeah.
This came out in, I want to say 08 or 09. Yeah, 08. And this record is really interesting. It has a whole bunch of art in it that opens up. But if you look on the front here, just some of the things you notice right away, is you see the police are portrayed as going after hip-hop itself. You also have George Bush in a bathtub of oil next to a bunch of missiles and an I Heart Oil sticker on it. Each missile has a different country on it. Yeah, you can see it there. There's a lot to take in on this cover.
Oh, yeah, so much to take in there.
A lot to take in on this cover alone. So throughout this album, there's a few things that stick out to me. The intro track, you know, which starts with kind of a click bang, lots of bass, and it's Zeitgeist. And throughout this album, again, it's not a political album. It's just things. There's certain songs he touches on here, Zeitgeist being one of them, that I think this is really well done. And from an art perspective, you know, the reason he and I both like it, for, like, just again talking about the album art, is that there's a lot of statement in there about, you know, maybe how he feels, or you know, how he feels fans should feel, whatever the case may be, that's said with actual art. And you don't see that inside of albums today. I can't think of one in recent history.
Not too many, if at all, are doing it with that much detail and exactly like that.
Yeah, and they're, you know, the title alone, Sacrificial Lambz, is a bit of a statement in itself. Also, you know, this goes back to 08. You know, this isn't new, and yet has so much relevancy to today. So I think this is an example of where, you know, again, it's not a fully political album. It's the art and some of the lines within it that are really well executed. And Esham's always been good at that stuff, all the way going back to, you know, Boomin' Words from Hell, making albums as a little teenager. He's always had a unique way of approaching it. And so I think that it's done well in the art here, and in some of the lyrics as well. Whether I agree with them or not, that's not really the point. It's, is it well done? And I think this is well done. What's one on your list? I've got more, of course. But
of course.
Take it away.
One big one I have on my list, I think most, if not all hip-hop fans, honestly think all hip-hop fans probably know this song. Fucking Fight the Power by Public Enemy. 1989, Another Summer, Sounds of the Funky Drummer. Like, that to me came to mind off top when Corey and I were talking about songs that talk about politics. Just going to my notes real quick, you know, Spike Lee approached Public Enemy about doing a song for the Do the Right Thing soundtrack. Was that back in '89? And
I didn't know that.
I just found it out double checking my notes
Spike
earlier.
Lee, well, he's a very political person.
Yeah, he is.
And he also, I guess, I wouldn't say he's hip-hop, but he aligns himself with a lot of hip-hop figures.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
Well, talk more about those songs and some of the, I guess, the content that's within them.
Yeah, so Fight the Power is off of Public Enemy's Fear of a Black Planet album, which I believe came out the following year. So they did a slightly different version for the Do the Right Thing movie that came out in '89 with a slightly different intro. And then when they dropped it on their album, Fear of a Black Planet, in 1990, different intro, but still the same song remained with those boombastic Public Enemy samples and it being all hype and Chuck D leading the charge with sounds of the funky drum and just, laying it hard in on Fighting the Power, simple and plain. Obviously, you've got, Flavor Flav in the back being ultimate hype man, but Chuck D does extremely well to really drive it home with all of the verses about fighting a power. And I actually have a quote from their bass player who mentioned even more about what the song is really supposed to be about, deeper than the whole fight the power phrase that we all seem to know.
What is the quote?
So the quote is from the group's bass player, Brian Hardgroove. He said of the song's message, "Law enforcement is necessary. As a species, we haven't evolved past needing that. Fight the power is not about fighting authority. It's not about that at all. It's about fighting abuse of power."
I think that's something we see in our culture today all the time, is that there's this idea that if you have any problem with, there's extremes on both sides, right? And there's this idea that if you have any problem with the police in America and the way they may conduct themselves, that you therefore hate the police and you want to defund them and get rid of them. And anybody, this is, again, of course, all opinion-based, but in my opinion, I don't think anybody with two brain cells to rub together thinks it would be a good idea to abolish police.
Yeah, no.
It's about correcting the behavior that we see across different color barriers, not just this team, this color, that color, but I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to. And as for the, blue line folks, super pro police, etc., I think they take any negative, like any criticism, hey, it probably wasn't cool to kneel on that guy's neck, regardless of whether he did fentanyl or whatever, this and that, in his own time. You shouldn't put your knee on someone's neck. They take that as an affront and therefore, deny and divert.
Exactly.
And I won't give a huge speech about how we should all come together, because frankly, the more that this country fights, the more it gives us shit to talk about, and any YouTuber for that matter. But, that is a very good point. I think that's basically what he's saying in that quote, is just look at it somewhere in the middle. We can meet somewhere in the middle if we're willing to, I guess. I don't know. For me, another one that came to mind, and I don't know that I would say that this is like a hardcore political song, but it talks a lot about our society and probably how politics are portrayed to us a bunch today. And that song is on The Tempest by ICP. It's the news at 6 o'clock and 11.
Yeah.
And the entire song is about things you will see on the news, whether it's sexual assault, abuse,
carjacking,
kids pissing in swimming pools. That's one of my favorite lines in there. All the different stuff. They say in the chorus, you want to see the real wicked shit. Where's the wicked at? Channel 2, 4, and 7. They be kicking that.
Oh, so love that bar so much.
So it's not necessarily like political, but it speaks a lot to our current society and how it has been for quite a while. That music gets criticized. Yep. ICP, one of our favorites, obviously. They've been criticized forever and are now being kind of embraced by society, which is an interesting paradigm flip. But that song really embodies, like, look, if you hate horror movies, you hate this and that, the other, just remember you have the ability to hit pause on all that. The stuff that's on the news is daily basis stuff, and it's real, and it's often way more wicked than what you would find in music or even movies that are fictional. So I really appreciate that one.
And to kind of add to that, I think it's, again, going off of what you said, it's very important to realize that while the world is very cruel, and we see that on the news nightly, it's very important to know that, we can step away from that for a second to kind of avoid that negativity that the news does give. And again, Corey,
people get absorbed by it.
They get absorbed by it, and it's kind of a thing that media tends to put in our heads subliminally with nothing but negative, very few positive,
and it's getting less and less subliminal and more
direct.
Like, listen to us, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, this is what's wrong with the world. Trust us. And I think at first it was like the idea of hating news. Fake news came from the Donald Trump presidency, and, his followers, etc. Mm-hmm. But really, I think everyone's at a point now where everyone feels like the news is bullshit.
Absolutely.
Right or left. It's not just one both sides are like, there's the news is absolutely controlling.
Yes.
And, not calling anybody weak-minded if they watch news all the time, but it's one of those things that I think we've learned as Americans, at least, and maybe as a whole world, that we have to be a little careful how much time we spend on certain things, or anything for that matter, right?
Because, that's the stuff that tends to trap us in and keep us down that hole of negativity, especially when it comes to the news.
Yeah, so news at 6 o'clock, and again at 11. I believe the track is just called News at 6 o'clock, I believe. But right here, it is on the Tempest by ICP, which came out the year I graduated, 2007.
Yeah. I think that came out on my birthday in 2007, actually, if I'm not mistaken. June 11th, 2007.
It definitely came out in the summer. I know that, because it was right when I graduated. Like, right then.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Very close.
Yeah.
What do you have next on your list? Good example or bad example? And we will get into bad ones. We got some good ones, we got some bad ones on the list.
So, I'm actually going to switch to a kind of indifferent one that I had on my list. This one is from Jay-Z's 2006 album Kingdom Come. It's called Minority Report. This one, him and Neo.
You know more about that than me. You go. He's the Jay-Z.
Oh,
right.
So
Jay-Z is not the greatest rapper of all time. He's good. I said this to him earlier. Sorry, I got cut you off.
No, it's all good.
Sorry. In interviews, the rare ones he gives, his girl baby voice, it throws me off. Yeah. But yet when he's rapping, I'm like, that's Hove. That you cannot mistake this man's voice. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
You Jay-Z God people, you just. But go on. You were saying song title again.
So Minority Report by Jay-Z featuring Neo from his 2006 album Kingdom Come. Okay. Jay-Z's. So this one is a very interesting song. He talks about essentially the Hurricane Katrina crisis and the aftermath of that, and
that was 2005, so it would have been appropriate time to speak on that. Go ahead.
So Jay-Z really dived into his feelings on what was going on with all these people being displaced from Katrina, and kind of what he could personally do to help him out, and kind of seeing what was going on, in New Orleans as everything was going on. Now, the song itself is fine, but I personally I wasn't really, I wasn't inspired by the way Jay-Z was delivering it. Like, I loved what he said about, trying to help, trying to do what he could to give back, but the delivery, it's one of the rare Jay-Z songs where I'm like, I'm not feeling this because the tone and delivery wasn't on par. And, Corey, as you know, I'm a Jay-Z fan, and for me to say that, that's pretty big.
Yeah, it is. Quick question for you about that. Was it, I'd have to pull that song up myself to listen to it, honestly. I'm not familiar with it, but I do have a question that maybe you can answer.
Yeah.
The approach in that song, is it sort of similar? Because remember, that's around the same time that Kanye West infamously said George Bush doesn't care about black people.
That is so great that you said that, because that's sampled at the end of this song. The George Bush, it is.
Okay, see, so I have to personally... we can have different opinions, we can have same. As you know, we often do.
Oh, of course.
Same, similar, and different. All the time we talk.
Yeah.
And we just put it on camera now. That is such a ridiculous statement to say about one individual, about an entire race.
Right.
I don't care. So-and-so doesn't care about so-and-so people.
Right.
If you just remove the hot buzzwords, black.
Yeah.
Or George Bush, so-and-so doesn't care about these. Boy, you better have like a whole lot of evidence for that. I can't imagine. I'm not saying George Bush was the opposite and he worshipped black people. We're just trying to say, for me anyway, that's it was Kanye's first moment of showing us that he's a unique individual.
Yeah,
and,
very much so.
That's coming from me. Not a diss, but not a compliment.
Yeah, and poor Michael Myers didn't know what the fuck to do. He was just like, okay, let's move on back to the charity thing for Katrina.
Right, that was on the charity event.
And on MTV.
Yeah, Kanye's got that pose he does.
Yeah.
So he actually did use that?
Jay-Z at the end, Jay-Z threw that in, that George Bush doesn't care about black people.
And what's the name of that song again?
Minority Report.
Minority Report. Okay. Clever title. I'll give him clever title, though.
Yeah.
Given, I have to listen to that myself. So, we'll go on to the next one, but y'all have to let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know what y'all think.
You disagree? Tell us. Tell us why, though. You agree? Tell us why.
Got some songs we missed out on? Tell us and tell us why.
Yeah, and we got more. And if you think, you know what, I just don't want to hear politics in any of my music. Okay, tell us why.
Exactly.
So let me go on to another one that I have. And I'm going to get more direct with it here.
Ooh.
So, 2003, who could forget this?
Yes, sir.
If you're our age. The Eminem Show.
Yeah.
So... everyone can probably guess the song I'm going to go to right away here, and that would be White America. And it is the first actual song. You have Curtains Up, the skit, and the first song goes, ba-ba-boom, and goes right into White America.
Oh, that was a song I almost put on my list. I almost put that on mine.
So he, in this song, I think it's really well done, and I personally agree with a lot of it. He talks about Tipper Gore, Dick Cheney's wife, I forget her first name, doesn't matter to me. Screw her. But Tipper Gore, Cheney's wife, and he's straight, saying fuck you to them. Because at that time, they were talking about hip hop and music and banning it within our Congress. And that is so crazy to even think about now that happened in my lifetime.
Yeah, dude.
They're literally quoting Cypress Hill's Hits from the Bong in Congress.
Yeah, I remember that so well for that time. And I remember being like, how can you do such a thing?
Be the Real says, pack it, spark it, hack it. It's just so terrible, man. And so he really, I think it hits really hard and well from the sense of, he's calling out the idea that, look, it's mostly, at least back at that time, it was mostly white kids in suburbia that were making these multi-platinum. Yeah. Plenty of black people, too.
Oh, yeah, and plenty of black people.
Plenty.
Yeah.
But when 50-something% of the country is white folks, they're going to make up a big chunk of whatever sells or doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
And calling out Congress itself, a former vice president's wife, a current vice president's wife, and really talking about the hypocrisy is, I think, what White America is truly about. Is, this is all stuff that I think the song White America contains a lot of stuff that a lot of people would agree with, especially in hindsight. No matter which, political side you are, Democrat or Republican. However, at the time, it was actually such an issue that it was being discussed in Congress.
Yeah. So
I have to give it a shout out, and I also think it's well done. If you don't, and you hate M or whatever, that's cool. Just give me another reason other than Benzino or some shit. Give me a real reason.
Yeah.
But that's one I just had to mention, because he's literally calling out, like I said, wives of former vice presidents, current ones, other ones, and making his point well known. And y'all can pull up that song and listen to it. We don't want to get copyright strict right away.
Yeah.
Eventually, but not right away. So there's that. What do you got next? Give me. Do you have an example? I don't want to make you go out of order, but you got an example of a terrible one?
Oh boy, do I! And I feel like it's such a great time to bring this up. just because I love hearing you do the impersonation of this song.
Oh no.
President by Wyclef Jean.
So Wyclef Jean, let me make my opinion very broad and clear. Wyclef Jean is a good singer because he has a very interesting voice.
Yep.
And I think it was cool that Dave Chappelle took him, and the Chappelle Show always had a musical performer at the end.
Yep.
Whether I think he had Mos Def, who's also political as well. I think maybe Common might have been one.
Common and Kanye, I think, were on there one time.
And of course Wyclef Jean. And he has a likable voice. It's melodic, it's soothing. However, his song "If I Was President" is a song that sounds appealing, like sonically, but is about a whole bunch of nothing, in my opinion. It's just simply him, kind of strumming along. If I was president, it's you get that. Okay, if you were president, what's up, Wyclef? Tell us what you would do if you were president. And in my opinion, the lyrics don't connect very well. I think there's times when artists try to get too deep.
Yeah. For
what would be main appeal, or even if it's not mainstream appeal. It's just too broad, and if the whole song, if I was president, if I was president, okay, like I love the melodics. If I was president, but then I'm left with 3-4 minutes of what I feel like doesn't connect at all. At least whatever. I would just say this. It's been, 20 years since that song came out?
Yeah, it came out in 2004. So, yeah, coming up on 20 years.
18 years about
it. 18.
And I still don't know exactly what his point was.
I re-listened to it back on Friday at work. I was still confused. I listened to the chorus, and I'm like, so you want to be president on Monday, and then you get assassinated on Sunday. So, I'm like, do you die as president right away? And
It's just an example of really bad delivery. Because again, I think he has a great voice and he's a great musician in a sense, but I've never liked him since because of that song.
Yeah.
And maybe that's petty on my part, and if you have a different opinion, share it and tell us why. We'll even throw in a typical YouTube, smash that like button.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Bell notifications. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Back to the real shit. So, that is an example of terrible. Do you have another bad example, neutral or positive one? I have a couple more, but I want you to go on.
Yeah, I have. Now, see, this next song I wanted to put as indifferent, but again, just like President by Wyclef, I re-listened to this song, and I was like, I like the meaning, but the delivery and the lyrics just don't do it for me. My President by Jeezy, or Young Jeezy as he used to be when he was younger.
That's right, he did change it at a certain point.
Yeah.
Do you know what year he did that? He went from Young Jeezy to Jeezy?
I want to say it was in the early 2010s, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say last 10 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, go on. Go ahead.
Yeah,
By Jeezy.
Yeah, so My President by Jeezy came out right when Obama, won the election.
So, 08.
Yeah,
right?
So, 2008.
Okay.
And, the general premise is, my president is black. And just all these, so the premise is that, obviously being excited that Obama's in office, as we all were, no matter the race, gender, what have you, we were all excited.
Except for Republicans who hung their American flag upside down outside.
Oh, man,
and then want to judge someone else for their opinion on the national anthem. Just can't leave that out, gotta say, because it wasn't everyone. It might have been everyone in South Minneapolis. Yeah. But in my neck of the woods where I grew up, Minnetonka, Minnesota, where I greatly did not fit in, especially as a juggalo, not everyone was happy. Some people were called him a terrorist. Remember, they wanted his birth certificate.
That's right.
So, but no, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
Thank you for adding that in.
In the hood, in the city, yes.
Yeah.
Across hip-hop, majority, yes.
Yeah.
But it's just... Obama is one of those polarizing figures, whether it's for better, in our opinion, or for worse. And look, I'm a guy who's voted for both sides, depending on the year.
True.
So, but anyway, go ahead. I just want to point that out.
Yeah. So, again, it's interesting because, again, the premise of the song, obviously being happy that Obama is in office, Jeezy doesn't necessarily translate it well. It goes into a weird story about him not being able to pay bills, and then feeling encouraged because Obama's in office to pay bills, and just kind of a weird smorgasbord of these feelings he has from before Obama was elected, and now that Obama's president, being like, oh, I can do all of these things, but it's just not executed in a way to where I'm convinced, like, is it a good song?
You know what? That's a great example, and I'll tell you why. I remember I lived in South Minneapolis at the time, across the bridge from you, in a much shittier area.
Right.
38th Street for life, baby. 38th and Nicollet. But no, I remember at that time, there was this sense, particularly amongst the black community or poor community, which can be any color, as we know.
Of course.
There was this idea that simply by Obama becoming president, that their financial problems, housing market, this, and that would simply be solved because the guy's black.
Right.
And that doesn't make any sense. We all fall into false hopes sometimes.
Of course.
And he never could have lived up to that if he tried, Barack.
Yeah.
It's Barack Obama.
Yep.
I remember one day getting on the bus, which I rarely did in my life. I still to this day, I'm a guy who drives everywhere. But I was on a city bus one day. I think I was headed towards MCTC to meet up with my boy Nico, who was my roommate at the time in South. And I got on the bus, and there was this dude. It couldn't have been but 10:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And there's this brother on the bus, a black guy, skinny, raggedy clothes, all this and that. You could tell he was gone off paint or lean, or, even just alcohol, whatever. And he's up and down the bus screaming, especially with his. He had real hot breath too. I'll never forget that. Real hot. Everyone's saying, "We got a N-word with an A in office now. We got a brother in office now. What? We got a brother in office now." And I just remember, I'll be honest, at the time sitting there thinking like, "You're fucking stupid," and not for liking that his skin color was in office, but for thinking that skin color being in office either which way is a problem solver for an entire country's economy.
Right.
That's not, an economy doesn't run on skin color.
Exactly.
It doesn't run on one person. It runs on a collective. That is what an economy and society is. So that's another good example. Let me switch gears a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I see what you. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the juggalo world. 1992. ICP, the first Joker's card, Carnival of Carnage. Now, you might look at this. Yeah, that's right, all day.
Yeah.
You might look at this and think, what is political about this album? Well, I don't think they really were political. They aren't today, and I don't think they were back then. However, they've spoke on a lot of things. We've got a few examples of them, but on this one in particular, there's a song called Your Rebel Flag.
Yes.
Which really is short for Fuck Your Rebel Flag.
Exactly.
But I imagine they didn't want to put the swear word on the back of it. They're trying to move units. It's the early 90s, different time.
Yep.
And the whole song is about the ideology of loving the rebel flag, even though, I guess, I think I speak for both of us on this easily.
So.
That the rebel flag, the Confederate flag, stands for bigotry, it stands for hatred, it stands for war, it stands for slavery, and for some reason, there are plenty of people out there that want to stand behind one single word, and that word is heritage.
Yep. We've certainly heard that throughout the years, especially when it comes to that, and certainly you and I have been confused, like, what is there to be prideful about this thing?
My 4 years living in Southwest Florida, I've met black people who rep the rebel flag.
Oh, man.
And that, to me, kind of blows my mind. And look, I can understand being from the South and being proud of, I guess, parts of... Because, our country, in the end, eventually the Confederacy dissolved and was absorbed, and we became one whole country again, and got even bigger and stronger than ever after the Civil War. So, in fact, we are partly made of that. However, it is a fine line between being proud of, I guess, your family and maybe very specific things,
right?
And the just the raw deal. In fact, that flag, no matter which way you cut it, slavery, war, and hatred. That's what it. You can go ahead in the comments if you want to tell me it stands for anything else and give me a history lesson or think you can. I know more about it than I'm going to go into in this video because people don't need to be on and on about the flag from my mouth. But at the end of the day, that's what it was flown for. That's why it was created. Even, Mar-a-Lago, where Trump lives now, was created to be the White House of the South. And as we know, it was created and owned by C.W. Post's wife. C.W. Post is the guy, you see his name on Grape Nuts, all those kinds of cereal. Anyway, no, wait, was it his I think it was his daughter.
Right? His daughter.
Yeah. So, that White House of the South stands to this day, and now it's a golf resort owned by the Donald. And I'm not calling him a Confederate or anything. I'm simply just saying that's happens to be in Florida, and I've been around that area, and it's an interesting place. But Rebel Flag touches on that in a way that's very point blank. It's in your face, and it's to the point. And I think a lot of people, I would imagine in 1992 and 30 years later today, there are certain things we are like, you know what? There's no nice way to talk about it. Fuck your rebel flag.
Exactly.
Just that's it. So I appreciate it from that standpoint that it is so in your face.
Oh yeah, and they definitely do not waste any bars on that. From the very first bar to the very last, they do not waste any bars or words on how much they hate the rebel flag.
And again, like we were saying in the beginning of this video, it's not whether we necessarily agree with all of the sentiments of the song. It's, is it well done?
Exactly.
So where we were with Rebel Flag, and again, the reason I picked this to bring up and talk about is because I like that it's in your face about it. It's very 1992.
Yep.
ICP, they're 9th grade educated people,
right?
But they're smart enough to realize some basic right and wrongs that come with that flag,
Yep.
So again, like we've said before, it's not about necessarily what we agree with or disagree with. In this instance, it's something we totally do agree with.
Yes.
It's about what's delivered well, and delivered well can mean various different things, and it can mean various different things to various different people.
Yep.
So something to keep in mind there. Our mic is in the shot. Sorry about that. Alright, so that I got one more example, but I want you to go ahead.
Yep,
with
I got one more.
You got your last boy.
Yep,
here.
got my last example as well. Another song that we all, at least I hope we all, most, but all, that we all know.
Yeah.
Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machines.
Which you automatically want to call Killing in the Name of.
Yes, I almost did just now. I was like, there's no of. Let me chill. There's no of.
Yep, I know.
Yeah.
1993, right?
92 actually.
Okay, I think maybe the video is 93. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, 92, 93.
Yeah, so this song, so many great things to say about this song. And Rage Against the Machine, obviously, their big thing is they tend to talk about a lot of political stuff. That's pretty much their big thing.
Well, that's in their name, right?
Exactly.
Hey, let's also Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
The machine being, the system, the government,
yep,
or the oppressive system in their view or their fans' view, whatever. One real quick thing I want to say about that though is, while most people or some people might say, well, they're not hip hop or they're not rap. Okay, that might be true. I guess they're more rock. However, I don't know a hip hop fan that doesn't fuck with Rage Against the Machine.
Exactly.
And they have hip hop qualities to them.
Very much.
So they're being included in this for that reason. But yeah, go ahead with Rage.
Alright, so with Killing in the Name of, they do extremely well to talk about police brutality. This song, I actually found out from my own research, was done shortly after the Rodney King stuff in LA, shortly after the LA riots.
Yep.
Rodney King.
That'll be 92.
Yeah, so very around that time. As a lot of songs kind of were, a few Ice Cube songs are around that time, as well as I think Tupac's Holler If You Hear Me was also around that era as well. So obviously a lot of those guys on the West Coast had a lot of shit to say about police brutality. Rage Against the Machine was certainly no different. A little fun fact about this song I know you'll love. In the explicit version of this song, the word fuck is said 16 times.
That's perfect. I guess they were going with like one per bar, and we'll spread it out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Verse. You know, that song is really interesting. 2 fun facts about it I'll give out real quick, which people may not know. They performed it on Saturday Night Live, and when they performed it on Saturday Night Live, they were told, you know, not to say the fuck part.
Yep.
You know, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Yes.
And so if you tell a group that makes their bones off, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, and you tell them not to say that specifically, what is it likely that Rage Against the Machine is going to do?
They're going to do it.
Yeah, that's right. So on Saturday Night Live, they absolutely put it out. Fuck you, we won't do what you tell me. And they were banned from Saturday Night Live for life. They haven't been on since.
Not since.
Number 2, BBC, extremely similar. They the BBC over in UK and England, they played them saying, you know, this amazing group from America is making waves across the west coast to the east, all the way across the pond over here. And here's them playing their world concert that is really reaching a lot of people. And so they start playing it, and of course the part they play is right in the chorus. And again, they don't say it. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell. And then a little, you know, white English lady comes in, and she mutes their audio. We surely apologize for that. That's language that we would never endorse upon the BBC. We do apologize. We asked them not to do that. The chorus is fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Exactly.
Of course that's what they did.
Yeah.
So I always kind of respected that about them.
Oh yeah,
man. Appreciate that.
And just the fact that like the big part of the song is some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. I have always loved that.
Yup, some of your most powerful people that make some of the biggest decisions in our country, elected officials, things like that, are also the same people that, and I guess this could go for anybody, what people do behind closed doors, as they say, but the politicians can be a very extreme example of that.
Absolutely.
So I think that song, Killing in the Name, is probably about the best one could come up with. Even if you don't want to call it hip-hop, that's fine, but let's just call it that, and musically for now, of it being well done, because I don't know anybody who doesn't like that song.
Exactly. Everybody loves that song.
Yeah, straight up. So, another person I did want to talk about real quick in here before we wrap this up, last but not least, is a guy who's really, whether you love him or hate him, and a lot of juggalos hate him, and a few love him, is Tom MacDonald. He basically specializes in it.
Oh, yeah.
He does have music that talks about other things, personal things, addiction, his anxiety struggles, things that I can certainly relate to a lot. But that's his. I don't want to call it a gimmick. I think it's probably a little bit gimmick, but it's a lot of his passion, and quite frankly, it's what works for him. And look, Tom MacDonald, the person, I've had my personal issues with him. I do not like him as a person. However, I greatly respect and appreciate his music. And I'll give him a shout out on his most recent song and video called The System. You know, brilliant title, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, right. But it is, discusses a lot of things. He, in a lot of his music, covers a lot of topics that a lot of us, I think we feel like if we tweeted about it or Facebooked or whatever, we would get banned immediately. And I know he's faced shadow banning and stuff like that himself on YouTube, but overall, I think I give him probably an absolute A for effort, in A for getting his, view or approach to politics across. My only criticism of Tom musically, because that's what we're going to stick to, not personally.
Yeah.
Musically, my only criticism would be is that he has a tendency at times to make the same song 15 times.
Yeah, very much.
Like, The System was finally a little bit different. He covered a few more topics and different things, but it's always, he's trying to be edgy, he's trying to be that guy. That's his shtick, that's his thing, that's his whatever. And if that's where his passion is, who am I to criticize? But if I had one criticism, it would be that, there's a certain point where I would like you to show us other abilities of yours if you're that good of a rapper, which he is a good rapper.
Yeah.
And he does that sometimes. I just feel he could do it more.
Yeah.
So that would be it. And I think we'll wrap it up there, but there is one other group I want to give a shout out to.
Yeah.
And for good reason. Metallica.
Yeah.
Obviously not hip hop. This is metal. I believe And Justice for All came out in 88. Yep, it was remade. Vinyl was done in 2018. And the title says it all. And Justice for All.
Yes.
And same with the cover. There's too much to go over unless y'all want a specific YouTube video on this album, which we could totally do.
We good?
But it really, they deserve an honorable mention for approaching it well and delivering it well. So at the end of the day, let us know, does politics belong in music and hip-hop? We believe anything does.
Absolutely.
It's an open battlefield. If you got something to talk about, speak on it. And if people like it enough, they'll buy it and listen to it.
Yep.
And everything we've mentioned today is something that people have loved, bought, listened to, or hated for that matter.
Oh, definitely.
You know, controversy comes with politics in any way.
Yeah.
So, let us know. If you don't like hearing it, why don't you like hearing it in music? If you do like it, how often do you like hearing it?
Mm-hmm.
And what are maybe some examples that we missed or something? We've got plenty more, but give us some other good examples. Let us know what you think. And I guess we could send it off with the typical YouTuber. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe bell, and all of that stuff, because we're desperate and really we're poor. But yeah, anyway, subscribe, like if you want.
All that good stuff.
As always, much love to the juggalos most of all, but to anybody watching, we appreciate it.
We appreciate y'all.
2 scoops of whoop.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Alright, get us later.
Peace.